How do you transfer real property into a living trust? So we're going to break this down in detail because if it's not done right, you're going to end up in probate and the property that you wanted to protect with the trust is going to go through probate court. So a couple things we're going to talk about today. Why and how you must transfer your home into the living trust. And for those of you who have a more elevated estate, it might be an LLC holding your home, right, for officer and director benefits into the trust. So we'll talk about that. The second thing we're going to talk about is how do you ensure that your living trust is set up correctly? I don't know how many times Scott and I see this. I'd say it's about 50-50. And a lot of you also have just kind of left them behind and you haven't updated them. So when should you be updating your trust? One of those significant marks in your chapters in your life, I call them. Last thing we're going to talk about are the common mistakes to avoid in the process, because there is a checklist that's critical. The last thing you want is to end up in probate court. So to have this conversation, I'm bringing my partner and expert in trust, Scott, to our conversation today, and we're going to break this all down. So welcome, Scott. So Scott, welcome back to talk more about living trust and all of the estate planning components.
Well, thank you. I always appreciate being here.
So let's talk about why you must transfer your home into living trust.
Well, really the biggest reason to transfer your home into a living trust is to bypass the probate process. If it sits outside of the estate, and all of your other assets are included in the trust, it can still potentially go through probate. However, if you leave it outside of the trust, you're really relying heavily on the pour-over will to go out, capture the asset, and bring it back into the trust. So really the question is, do you want to gamble on that? That's really the reason why we need to put it into that living trust upon the execution of the trust documents.
I love that, and absolutely essential. And how do you ensure that the living trust has actually been correctly and accurately set up? And I want you to really dive deeper and maybe give some stories of, people who didn't get it set up correctly. And the end answer is, the worst graveyard on the planet, which is probate. And I just made that up, but I thought that was really funny because it is the worst place to live.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I've had several clients. I mean, in the course of doing this for many decades, I've had a lot of clients that want me to review their trust, want me to see if they have the essential sections that are necessary to bypass the probate process. When they hand me their documents, they're this thick, 26, 28 pages. And it doesn't outline the assets. Sometimes I look at it and they have beneficiaries or trustees that they've had falling out with and, just haven't restated their trust. But I've seen a lot of that. And when you go through the probate process, relying on a set of documents that is not even an inch thick is really gambling as to whether or not they're going to say, no, we're going to open up a probate case on this one, or we'll let this one fly. Again, it's a gamble. So it's critical that you have all the essential components of the comprehensive estate plan.
So if you say there are, say, a top 4 or 5 components, what are they?
The top 4 or 5 components are your durable power of attorney for healthcare and advance directive. That's absolutely critical to say, this is how I want my person, my being to be handled. Do I want to be kept on life support, or do I have a DNR order, right? Do I want to be given just water, essential nutrients until I pass? These are critical factors. Do you want your organs to be donated for various different research purposes? That's what that durable power of attorney and advance directive do. The next component is durable power of attorney for assets. Who's going to handle the assets? Who's going to distribute the assets based upon your last wishes in your trust? Then your living will, right? The living will is a critical factor. Living will states this is what you can do with the assets while you're alive. Your last will and testament and pour over will, this says how you want the assets to be dispersed and at what times. And then the trust is the legal agreement that allows you to bypass the probate. Oh, I forgot one. Nomination of conservator. Right? Nomination of conservator is if you go into what's called living probate and you're unable to speak for yourself, who's going to be making your medical decisions for you? Is it going to be somebody who you appointed as your conservator, or is it going to be the court's appointed conservator? Big factors.
Huge, huge. So I hope you're enjoying our content. We have so much. I mean, we have on switches, not off switches. We could talk for hours about this, and we're passionate as ever about this and generational wealth. So those of you that are here, this is a family channel, 5 years old and up. It's about generational wealth. And we want you to subscribe to the channel, click that notification button, be here 5 days a week, and really start immersing yourself in proper knowledge that's cohesive and integrated. So with that, Scott, let's talk about the last topic here, which are the mistakes to avoid in the process, because there's a lot of mistakes. And your lawyer might not even have told you some of them because they just assume you know things.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's don't rely solely on an estate lawyer to guide you through the process. You really need a team. Our generational wealth experts, they know how to tie all the components into the trust to help manage and set up the trust and the funding process. Because as you said, right, most attorneys will say, here's your documents, and here's the letter at the very back that says, this is what you need to do to put the assets inside the trust. Good luck.
It's just so essential. We want you to start now, start early. We have a report in the description below. Scott talked a little bit about our state report, and go get it right now. And through that, you'll be able to set up a one-on-one call with Scott and or his team. And let's have a one-on-one private conversation about what you are doing, where you are. And again, anyone who has subscribed to this channel, make sure you share this video with your parents, with your kids, with your siblings, because you all got to get on the same page to make this work and you don't end up in a war. But talk about the report, Scott.
Yeah, absolutely. So the report consists of why it's essential to have a living trust in place. It then outlines, the differences between a will and a trust. It shows the process of what happens when you pass away with a will versus what happens when you pass away with a trust. It then also gives additional information as to what probate is. It explains what probate is, and it's a horrible process that nobody really should have to go through. And then it also talks about what's included in our trust that we put together, all of the critical components that I talked about here that need to create that comprehensive estate plan.
Well, and I think a lot of you, just that report alone, if you have a trust, at least compare the checklist, because you'll be surprised how much is missing that you thought was just being handled because my advisors handle it. So you need to be the advisor of your family. Make sure you're here on this channel. We'll be back tomorrow talking about more topics on money, finance, business. But if you have any questions, go to askloral.com, ASKLORAL, ask a question, make a request, and we are here every day for you.